Maybe he's just a fool. I have no idea. You're listening to the Pillaging Podcast, companion podcast to PillagingJustForFun.com, the only Raider fan site made by Raiders fans for Raiders fans. Tune in every Tuesday on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Stitcher Radio. Call and leave a message to be played on the air at 408-909-PJFF. Also, follow us on Twitter at PillageJustForFun. That's at PillageJust4Fun. I'm your host, Kenny Stapler, joined every week by my co-host, Raider Kane. It's time to pillage another podcast. What's good, Kane? How you living?
What's good, Kenny? I'm living well, man. Just living the dream, enjoying the off season, getting reacquainted with life. How you been, man?
I'm good, man. And you know what? It's 1:30 in the afternoon on a Monday, and neither one of us are drunk. But our boy Aldon Smith wasted no time getting started this morning. Dude was getting fired up at 11 a.m. And to make matters worse, he went live on Instagram. I didn't get to see it. You didn't get to see it, but Twitter's blowing up right now. People are saying he was jumbling his words, wasn't making sense, claiming he was about to work out. I hope he's not lifting weight on the sauce. But give me your thoughts on that. What does this do for Aldon Smith going forward? Keep in mind, his suspension is over, which means I guess he's allowed to drink. I really don't know what the stipulations are there, but either way, this is a bad look for him. And if he can't keep his ish together for, a month after reinstatement coming and going, then I don't know what the rest of this offseason looks like. I don't know if he comes back. I don't know if we want him back. I don't know if the league wants him back. How do you feel about it? What would you do?
Not a good look, Aldon. Not a good look. I really don't know. I'm not going to comment on this right now, just for the simple fact that I don't know if it's true. If it is true, not a good look, Aldon. Not a good look.
Not a good look at all. And, we don't know either. We didn't see him lifting a bottle. We all I know is he was acting a fool. Maybe he's just a fool. I have no idea, but you got to mind your P's and Q's, man. You're on the hot seat right now. So Commissioner Kane and Commissioner Kenny, we both don't like what we're hearing right now. I don't know. I'd pump the brakes. I think officially Aldon still hasn't been reinstated. So there is that, even though the suspension is come and gone. So you're blowing it, man. Yeah, we don't have an MVP and a trash can player, but I got to back the truck up. I got to dump you in the back, Aldon. Your garbage is sweet. Get it together. Get your life together. Step your life game up, bro. You're a professional football player. You make millions of dollars to play a game. Get it together.
100%.
Speaking of the game, the offseason's in full force right now. The coaching carousel is already turning around, and it landed here in Oakland. Bill Musgrave is out. He's now the offensive coordinator for the Denver Broncos. Quarterback coach Todd Downing has been promoted. Word on the street is this guy's really close to Carr. And a lot of mixed feelings about this. A lot of people wanted Musgrave gone. A lot of people scratching their head as to why he's gone. A lot of people wondering, why isn't Ken Norton Jr. gone? How is the number 5, number 4 offense in the league? I forget where we landed, but we're up there. How is the coordinator of that offense gone? Bottom tier defensive coordinator still on the staff. Give me your reaction to that, Kane. How do you feel about that? What would you have done, and how do you feel about it?
Well, basically the Raiders moved on. I want to thank Bill Musgrave for his time here. You're a part of 12-4. It was time to move on, and the Raiders chose to do so. I believe they had an up-and-comer in this guy, Todd Downing, and I think I saw somewhere on Twitter that he was the orchestrator of a lot of these fourth quarter comebacks that Derek Carr had.
You're the real MVP.
It was just time to move on. I wish you well, wish you luck in Denver, and peace be to you, brother.
So some of the knocks on Bill Musgrave was that he was too conservative in early parts of the game and that the offense didn't really open up into the second half. I can't disagree with that. We do know that Derek Carr was getting packages to call from at the line. He was getting 3 plays to pick from at the line, and it seemed like he decided to open things up too in the later half of the game. We have a guy that can push the ball downfield, but we have a system that's basically the West Coast offense, which, as you know, is conservative dink and dunk offense. The rush game was good this year. It wasn't great. We were getting about 100 yards a game. That's right where you want to be in the NFL, but it wasn't stellar. And I think unless you have a stellar rushing attack and a good defense to hold you up, the West Coast offense isn't going to dominate like it used to. When we had Rich Gannon here and we were running that, we had the defense to complement it. It was still a little bit of bend, don't break, but we had playmakers on that defense and they were making plays. They were doing their job. It was real wishy-washy this season. We saw spurts by the defense, but not enough consistency to really hold that West Coast scheme up. So I get the move. It's still a little bit confusing to me, but when it's all said and done, what you're saying about Todd Downing, that gives me a lot of hope. And whatever it takes for Derek Carr to flourish and get to a Hall of Fame level, which I think he can, I'm all for it. And if Downing has a little bit more nuts and he wants to open it up first, second quarter, I'm excited about the next season. I want to see what this young guy can do. It was a ballsy move. We got a ballsy head coach, and we got a front office that seems like it's not afraid to make decisions early and often anymore. So that gives me hope. The word is still out on Ken Norton Jr. The offseason isn't over. They haven't re-signed him or extended him, I should say. They're working on an extension for Jack right now, which I'm all for. Part of this might have been the relationship between Jack and Bill. So can you kind of recap that for us, Kane? I know you know Bill Musgrave's history, and you're pretty familiar with Jack's history too. Talk about what's happened before between the two of them, and could that have played into this decision at all?
Well, I think it was a little bit of a tug of war between Del Rio and Musgrave. And I think this is not their first time. This obviously isn't their first go around. I believe he was fired once in Jacksonville, brought back, and then I think he was fired again and brought back. I think this happened twice already. I know once for sure. So, I think as far as the offense goes, I'm not sure if it was too much passing and not enough running. That would be Del Rio likes to run game, but we got a quarterback in Derek Carr that likes to fling it around and has won games with our arm. And I believe Musgrave utilized that the best he could. And if that hurt the running game in the process, then so be it. We was 12-4. Could we have run the ball a little bit more? Yeah, we had the best offensive line in football. At the end of the day, it's Derek Carr who won the games for us, and Bill Musgrave put his eggs in Derek Carr's basket. And if you noticed, and you mentioned this earlier, Musgrave was on the sideline last season. This year, he's in the booth. I think he distanced himself from Del Rio, and he wanted to do his own thing this year. Matter of fact, that's sort of like maybe why he's not here. It was time to move on.
And we'll see if he's in the booth in Denver. I think that's going to be telling too. If he starts out the season in the booth in Denver, then we know it wasn't anything personal. Maybe he just prefers to see the field up there. But if he shows up game one on the sideline in Denver, that's suspicious to me because that makes that move to the booth in Oakland that much more significant. Are we reading into this? Maybe. Sometimes, though, this drama is real. You got real people working with each other. And as you know, personal relationships, they break down. NFL is a high-stress environment that puts a lot of pressure on people to get along. Musgrave and Jack, like you said, they got a turbulent past. That pressure's already there. So it was like a pressure cooker, I think, waiting to happen. And then with Jack throwing his coordinators under the bus at the end of the games, I get that. I think I like it. I like coaches holding other coaches accountable. I think as a head coach, that's what you do. I think he did it in a somewhat tactful manner. A lot of people still questioning it, but you know what? That's Jack's style. We're not talking about a hardball, brash, awkward, hard to get along with dude. We got a guy that likes to shoot straight, and I got no problems with that whatsoever. My issue is, though, Jack, if you got problems with the play calls, you're the head coach. You have the power to veto any play that comes through that headset at that time, unless you're running short on the play clock, what have you. But as a head coach, you should have an idea of what you want to run, and if the call doesn't sync up with that, you need to step in and invoke your presidential power at that point. So, Jack, you could have done a little bit of something there. If you wanted to see the ball get ran more, then step in at the meetings, step in at the line or at the sideline and make that happen. There's a little bit of onus on you too, Jack, but I'm not coming down on you hard. The team's 12-4. That team never gave up, and that all falls on you. You inspired these men to go out there and fight every single Sunday, Monday, Saturday night, what have you, every single game, and you did that. You did your job, and you're coming back, and you're getting an extension, and it's well worth it. Musgrave isn't the only person that's out. The entire San Diego Chargers franchise is out. They're moving to La La Land. They're headed to the City of Angels. They're gone. Mark, there was some conjecture, some rumor this week that Mark told Spanos, if you don't take that opportunity, I'm going to take it. That's just rumor. I personally don't buy it. I think Mark is fully bought into this Vegas thing at this point, so I don't think that that's true, but that is a story that was floating around out there. How does the San Diego Chargers moving to LA change the landscape of the NFL and or the AFC West? Does it change things at all? LA is now saddled with two, what I think are bottom tier teams. I see the talent on the San Diego roster, but year after year, they continue to poop the bed. So you know how I feel about them. I do think they're a dangerous team, but they're a team that performs under expectations every single year. So now LA's saddled basically with two losers for the time being. That could change. I don't know. What does this do for you? What do you think about it? Does it change anything at all? Are you happy for San Diego? Do you feel for their fans? I mean, rivalry aside, what do you think about this move?
Well, I think Dean Spanos totally screwed the San Diego Charger fans. I understand their anger. I understand their passion for the team. The team left them, and I don't think San Diego. Speaking from a Charger perspective, they had to really leave. I mean, it was $175 million gap. I'm sure they could have figured out a way to make that happen, but they left and they screwed their fans. And as far as them being in LA, and they're a competitive team. They got a good roster. They had a lot of injuries last year, so they could have been a different team. I believe they was in 7 close lost games by 3 points. So this is a competitive team. They might be more popular than the Rams in the long run. So is it a good move for them? I don't know. We'll see. I know it was a bad move for the San Diego Chargers, for the San Diego fan base, the community. This team is about to have to rebrand itself in Los Angeles. I don't believe many San Diego Charger fans are going to follow them to LA. That's two totally different cities, two totally different atmospheres, two totally different communities. So, good luck to the Chargers, and sorry to the fans.
Yeah, I think you're right, because the reaction on social media was ugly. It was near violent. The fan base there is really angry. You know what, San Diego? We'll see you in Los Angeles. And guess what? We own LA too. So ain't a damn thing changed. We'll see you next year for our second home game against you guys, like it always is. Take note, Mark Davis. Take note, NFL. The reaction you saw from San Diego fans is mild compared to the reaction you're going to see out of Oakland Raiders. And I say Oakland Raiders fans, if and when they move to Las Vegas, which leads me to our next related topic. The rumor is that Mark Davis is filing for relocation to Vegas this week. Could happen today, could happen tomorrow, but it's coming. There's no doubt about it. After what we found out about the NFL owners meeting last week, he presented to them the viability of his financing plan, the fact that he's actually seeking alternate financing from Goldman Sachs. He wants to leave Sheldon in the dust, which, though I don't agree with this move, I think that's a smart decision by Mark. Adelson, not a good play for the NFL and not a good guy to get into bed with. We're not going to open this egg up completely, because once this relocation happens, we're going to really bust it open. But just so far, what are you seeing from the NFL? What's your gut feeling about the owners? How far could this go? Should we be worried about it? Is a relocation paperwork really a threat to our team leaving the backyard? What are your thoughts on the topic?
Well, my thought is I don't really have a thought until the Mark Davis has 23 votes in his pocket that says he can move to Vegas. Until then, it's a non-issue for me. I'm trying to keep a positive outlook from this last season. We was 12-4. That's my thoughts right there. As far as them moving to Vegas, if and when that does happen, or when that does happen, I'll cross that road when I get to it. For right now, he filed, so we'll hear something from the NFL in March, I believe. And you know what? If my gut says he's not going to get the votes to go. My gut says that the NFL really does want him to stay in Oakland. Now, with that being said, the NFL probably doesn't want 3 teams moving in 1 year span, in a 12-month span time. So that's another thing that we as fans got in our favor, is that they may make him file again in a year, go back to the table, show good faith that you did actually sit down and talk with the lot group, and and try to put a stadium plan together to present to Oakland. And like I said, until he has 23 votes that says he can go to Vegas, he's here in Oakland. Period.
I think that's a great point. I'm in lockstep with you. And that last point you made is one I actually haven't heard yet. The NFL not wanting so many teams shuffling around in such a short period of time. That's a great point. And I haven't heard anybody bring it up yet. Not to say that they haven't, but here it is right now on this show. You bring it up. I think that's a valid point. That's a lot of moving around. That's a lot of dollars up in the air. That's a lot of uncertainty. A big part of NFL fan base is local loyalty, whether you believe it or not. We're a little bit of a special case because we got Raider Nation. We're around the world. But, teams like the Rams, like the Chargers, they don't really travel that well. There's not a lot of Charger fans out in Boston. And that's an extreme example, but I'm just kind of showing you that their brand isn't global like ours is, So a move for them, even though LA is close to San Diego, I'm not thinking that's a slam dunk. And I think the same goes for the Raiders, even though we do have that global fan base. You're moving into a place that's going to be very expensive to visit. That's a taxing trip for a lot of people. Maybe they grow that local market organically, and there's a ton of Raider fans there in a few years. There already is. There's a pretty strong Raider fan base out in Vegas. There's a lot of California transplants out there. I enjoy my time out there. I'm always received well being from California. You run into a lot of people. I get into clubs for free because of it. There's also actually a lot of Bay Area people out there too. So I'm with you lockstep. I'm trying to sort of pace myself. This situation is up and down day to day. It seems to swing one way and then back the other way. So we won't really know much until, we're told more. And that sounds obvious, but I'm just stating the obvious, I guess. I'm going to wait patiently too to see what more comes out about this.
And here's one more quick thought on that. There's still Santa Clara. The NFL told Al to look into moving to Santa Clara when the stadium was built, the 49ers. The 49ers are struggling right now. The city of Santa Clara is struggling with the money they put up to help fund this thing. There's a possibility that Mark is forced, you hear me, to move to Santa Clara, to do something. And I think the NFL will pay for the remodification of the stadium to add a Hall of Fame, make it the Giants, Jets, one side Raiders, one side Niners. I don't think it's too late to do that. Mark has money. He has enough money to do that. He has enough money to build the inside half of the stadium. Don't think that's not a possibility. Would we as Raider fans like it? No, hell no. But it's still a possibility. So, I just wanted to interject that in real quick, bro.
And I think that's great. I'm glad you reset that. It's a very viable option. I don't like it. I think a lot of us wouldn't like it, but I wouldn't be mad at it. At the end of the day, they'd still be right here in my backyard. In fact, they'd be closer to me. Right now, I'm an hour from the Raiders game from my front door, and that ain't bad. They moved to Santa Clara. I'm about 25 minutes out. So, that gets better for me. Sharing the same house with the Niners, some of you guys outside of the Bay Area don't really care. Around here, it's kind of a weird rivalry, but at least we're on the upper half of that rivalry. To be able to move into their house and hold possibly a championship up in that stadium someday, there's a little bit of Schadenfreude there, German for basically deriving satisfaction out of watching somebody else fail. So there is that if it happens. But that is a very viable option. At the very least, it could be a placeholder while we look to get something done in the East Bay. So there's still a lot of things floating around out there. We'll talk about that more probably in the coming weeks, if not even as soon as next week. And we'll get some guests on here to talk about that with us. We got Boss Man we've been trying to get on. He's a big presence on Twitter. He's a big pro-Oakland advocate, and I think he's got a lot of thoughts on that. Also a member of the 66th Mob. If you don't know who that is, check them out on Twitter. Search them up. They're doing a lot to try to keep the team in Oakland. I think we said a lot about that already, said all that needs to be said for the time being. So we're going to take a break. We're going to hear from some of our callers, and then we'll come back. We're going to go around the league and talk about these NFL playoff games that just happened, and we'll talk a little bit about the games that are going to happen next week. We got a great slate of championship games, in my opinion, and it should be a great Super Bowl, despite the fact that the silver and black ain't in it. I'm looking forward to it. I think it's been a good postseason so far. So anything you want to say before we get out of here before break?
No.
All right, man. Well, go Raiders, and we'll catch you guys on the other side. You're listening to the Pillaging Podcast, companion podcast to PillagingJustForFun.com, the only Raider fan site made by Raider fans for Raider fans, featuring fan-submitted articles and the most lively Raider Nation conversation on the internet. Follow us on Twitter, @PillageJustForFun. That's @PillageJust4Fun. Also, tune in every Tuesday on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Stitcher Radio.
Hey guys, DJ Johnny here. Well, I was wrong about Wade Phillips. My last call was all excited about how the defense was going to change, and how I was excited about Wade Phillips and hoping the rumor was true. So obviously it's not. So in this call, I guess I'll express my disappointment and chagrin that he is not coming, and Norton is still there. I don't get that. I don't understand it, so I'm going to need some help from you guys and the fellow bloggers to get me in the right frame of mind about that, about our defense, because I don't get it. If it's about Del Rio's ego, that he wants a yes man in there, because it just doesn't make sense. I mean, you can make a case for Musgrave leaving because the offense maybe could do better. You look at the playoff game and the game against Denver and how we weren't ready and stuff like that. But to not, I mean, if a case can be made for any coordinator, it's Norton. I mean, the regression, the ton of talent, worst in the league in sacks. So I'm hoping for revitalization of the defense in the offseason. I hope we get some good news on that. And I just don't like the way it's going. I don't understand, the stay the course stance for the defense. I mean, that's not a course you want to stay. Anyway, thanks guys for everything. Have a good one. Catch you later. Bye.
All right, and we're back. So let's talk a little bit about these games that happened. First and foremost, I want to talk about the Packers and Cowboys. I think that was a hell of a playoff game. The final score, 34-31. The Packers pulled it out at the end, which I thought they could. I had the Packers in this game. I believe you did too. We both knew that Dallas was great, but I think we keyed in on the Green Bay Packers veteran experience in the playoffs. And as we know, in any sport that you play, experience in the postseason seems to trump everything. The Dallas Cowboys, they were running out of steam at the end of the season. They put on a good performance on Saturday, but they fell short to the Aaron Rodgers machine. So in that game, Aaron Rodgers was a mighty 28 of 43. He had 356 yards passing, only 2 touchdowns. He did have 1 pick. Prescott, not a bad game, 302 yards, 24 of 38, 3 touchdowns, again through 1 pick. This game just didn't work out for the Cowboys. It was basically who had the ball last, and Green Bay shut this team out. They did it. They did what they had to do. They did what a veteran team does. Did you get a chance to see this game or see a recap? What were your thoughts on it? Are you surprised that the Cowboys showed up as well as they did? What's sort of your quick hits on this game?
Well, the Cowboys played a hell of a game. They played a hell of a game, right down to the wire. One thing that they didn't count, they left too much time on the clock for Aaron Rodgers. And as I said in last week's show, you cannot count Aaron Rodgers out. And that's exactly what happened. You left him enough time to make a few plays, to get them downfield, to put them in field goal range. And it was over. I mean, it was over. I believe it. I'm sorry, a touchdown. They scored a last, 35-second touchdown?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, that was what you didn't count on. It was an awesome game, and kudos to the Cowboys. Dak Prescott showed up in a playoff game. Zeke Elliott showed up in a playoff game. That offensive line, that whole team came to play. They just didn't count on Aaron Rodgers. That clock left too much time out there.
So shout out to my boys, Steb and Sean. Steb, Packer fan. Sean, you're a Cowboys fan. You guys were going at it in the group text this week. Shout out to you, Sean. You're a big Cowboys fan. You stuck by your team. You and I have been talking all offseason and during the season. You give us a lot of props, too. I know you've been watching the Raiders. I look forward to hopefully seeing you guys next year in the Super Bowl. That would be great. I know a lot of people wanted to see that this year. The two teams, a lot of similarities, a lot of young talent, storyline. The fan bases are both huge, and I think that people have wanted that Super Bowl for decades. I think a Raiders-Cowboys Super Bowl would just be magnificent for the NFL. I think the ratings would be through the roof. I think that the fan bases would represent great. I think that would just be a stellar game to watch. I think the teams match up well. I really would like to see that this year. I'm a little bit glad that they didn't get to go this year without us. But, it was a good season for the Cowboys. I am not a Cowboys fan. I do tend to hate on them at times. They're a team that's easy to hate on if you're not a fan of. They're a little bit like the Yankees of the NFL, in my opinion. But you got to give it up for the Cowboys. When they're good, the NFL is better, much like the Raiders. So moving on, another great game that I've been looking forward to was the Seahawks and the Falcons. I said early in the season that the Falcons were going to be a force to be reckoned with. I think they always kind of fly under the radar. Matty Ice is a stellar quarterback and probably the best QB this season. So this game right here wasn't as close as the final score showed it, and the final score wasn't even really that close, 36-20. But Seattle scored a touchdown in the fourth quarter to make it a little bit closer. You had Seattle winning this game. I picked Atlanta to win this game. To be honest, it could have gone both ways. Seattle has that playoff experience. They are a dangerous team. If they're firing on all cylinders, they can hurt you on both sides of the ball. But unfortunately, Russell Wilson just couldn't get it done for them this week. He had 2 touchdowns, but he had 2 picks that really hurt them. Matt Ryan did not turn the ball over. He had 3 touchdowns, 338 yards passing. He was 26 of 37. That was incredible. Finished with a rating of 125.7. Just a stellar performance in the playoffs. They did fumble the ball twice, but they didn't cough it up. They retained possession on those fumbles. What are your hits on this game? What's your reaction there?
No Earl Thomas. No move on in the playoffs. Basically that's what it is. They missing a key player on defense, and Julio Jones ate them up. So, that's just like Arshawn Smith without Eric Berry. Richard Sherman looked like a regular cornerback yesterday. Yeah. And no, like I said, so no Earl, no go nowhere in the playoffs. Russell Wilson is not going to do it by himself.
When your secondary's hurt, Matty Ryan's going to slice you open, watch you bleed out. I mean, he gashed you. He really did. He gashed them. So not really shocking in that game. Texans versus Patriots. I thought this would be a good game, and it wasn't. It was actually kind of an ugly game. The Patriots limped through this game. I did think the Texans would give them fits. They do have the number 1 defense. They do have a great pass rush. We do know the key to stopping Tom Brady is to hit him. He's not infallible. You get that guy off his rhythm and things can fall apart. We've seen the wheels come off that wagon before. The Texans just didn't have the offensive firepower to get it done. They couldn't keep up with the Patriots, and the Patriots finally pulled away. They scored 2 quick touchdowns in the first quarter. Houston fired back. But in the second half of that game, they scored 3 points in 2 quarters, and that's not going to beat the Patriots, especially in the playoffs. Do you have any thoughts on this game? I think we both picked New England in this game.
They just no quarterback. You can't compete. This was going to be you was going to have to outshoot Tom Brady, and Brock Osweiler can't outshoot nobody. So. There you go with that. The defense, Texas defense is great, absolutely great. But can they play 4 quarters with the offense? putting them back on the field time and time again, especially in the second half of the game, nah.
Anytime you play in Foxborough, you better be bringing more heat than Brock Osweiler. So the last game, Steelers-Chiefs, I saved this for last because it has some major what-if storylines around it. This could have been us in this game. Steelers-Chiefs, close game, 18-16, kind of a slow-going game, gritty game, which we thought it would be. Chiefs have pretty good defense, and they're good at grinding out games. And the Steelers, well, that's always been them, right? They're a tough, hard-hitting team, and it seems to just always be their forte. Now, in the recent decade, they got Ben Roethlisberger, so they got some offensive firepower as well. They've always had a stout running game. That seems to be their signature as well, and they grinded it out, and they beat Kansas City in Arrowhead. I think I picked the Pittsburgh Steelers last week. I think you did too. And they did come out on top. So regardless of kind of how this game played out, because it was sort of a gritty game, Roethlisberger had no touchdowns, one pick. Alex Smith was 1-1 on touchdowns to picks, and low scoring game. So that said, had we been in this game, what do you think happens? You think we throw comp with Pittsburgh in Oakland?
I believe if we was playing that game in Oakland, we beat Pittsburgh with a healthy Derek Carr. We beat Pittsburgh. Kansas City, and I keep saying this, they're only good because they beat us. So us as Raider fans think they good. They're not that good. They're not, and it's going to show up next year when they got a harder schedule next year. So like I said, if we're in that game, we beat Pittsburgh. We beat Big Ben in our house. Oh, most definitely.
Yeah, and I think the last two items on Derek Carr's checklist is, I've been saying, I said this year his progression would lead to him making more changes at the line, which he did, but he was selecting from a package of plays, which we already talked about. I think next year, the next item on his checklist is making specific adjustments at the line. I'm talking about blocking, I'm talking about scheme, I'm talking about route redirection, more than just audibling between plays. I want to see him tweaking, but I think the last and probably the most important item left on his checklist is beat Kansas City. He has a full off season. I don't see Derek Carr losing 3-4 in a row in 2 years against Kansas City. So we got our eye on you, KC, and Pittsburgh. You got away with not playing us in Oakland. That's all I have to say. We're gonna score more than 16 points. I don't care what game it is, with a healthy Derek Carr. So, a little bit of a sour taste in your mouth, but it is what it is. The season's over. We had a hell of a season, 12-4. Unfortunate injury. It stops there. So that was this week's game. Let's look forward to next week's matchup. So we got Atlanta playing Green Bay. Where's that game being played at, Kane?
In Atlanta.
Yeah, that's Atlanta, right? Green Bay got in as a Atlanta, it's going to be played in the Dome. So who do you like in that game and why?
Green Bay got in as a number 3 seed. They won their division, but they didn't get a bye week.
There it is.
But what were you asking me? I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off like that.
No. Who do you like in this game and why?
I'm going with Green Bay because both teams are on a hot streak, but Green Bay, again, that Aaron Rodgers, you can't count him out, and it's an indoor game, so you don't have to deal with the weather. So they can just open that playbook up and just let it fly, just like they did and like they've been doing for this last 5-6 weeks now.
Aaron Rodgers with his back against the wall, playing the role of underdog. I like it. I like it every single time. That dude just seems to embrace adversity and silence all critics. Not that there's many left, but I like Aaron Rodgers, and I like Green Bay in this game as well. I think Atlanta plays well in their dome, but they did drop 3 in the regular season, so they're not undefeatable at home, and Green Bay travels well. And like you said, Aaron Rodgers playing in a vacuum, playing inside of a dome, no elements, and it looks good. Now, they did sustain some injuries. I believe they had a starting offensive lineman go down. They had another player out in this last game, so they're a little dinged up coming in, but Rodgers, that kind of quarterback, he's got that kind of moxie. He's going to make do with whatever he has. A guy like Randall Cobb, who was kind of quiet all season, the guy that we wanted on our roster, has stepped up and been big in the postseason. So, Aaron Rodgers is going to use whatever he has around him. The dude's an efficient quarterback, an economic quarterback, and he he's a magic maker. Matty Ryan, that guy's a killer. He's a stone cold sniper. This is going to be a hell of a game. I think it's going to be a close one. I hope it's a shootout for entertainment purposes, but I agree with you. I think Green Bay's coming out on top. Any more thoughts on that game?
No, I just, like I said, I think Green Bay is going to beat Atlanta, and it's going to be because of Aaron Rodgers and the experience he has in the playoffs. Going to be a good game. It's going to be a fire burner because neither defense is top notch. So it's going to be a good shootout, and I believe Aaron Rodgers comes out on top.
Yeah, look for that score to be in the 30s again, just like the Green Bay-Dallas game, and I expect there to be 80-plus passing attempts, both teams combined. I know that sounds ludicrous, but look at what you're dealing with. So the other game next week is going to be New England versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. This is another really good matchup, and this is going to be played in Foxborough. This is a tough one to call, to be honest, because I think, Pittsburgh, obviously a cold weather team. We talked about that last week. Roethlisberger elements don't seem to affect him. He does really well in the postseason, and, well, Tom Brady's Tom Brady. So this is a tough game for me to call before the season started. I'm pretty good at this. I need to put money on this one of these years because I called Green Bay, New England in the Super Bowl this year. So I'm going to stick with that, and I'm going to say New England wins this game, even though I don't want to see them in the Super Bowl again. I think people are tired of it in general. A Steelers-Packers Super Bowl would also be great. That's sort of, a callback from a while ago. I think that was a 90s Super Bowl matchup. So I would like to see that again. But who do you got in this game? Who do you see coming out on top?
Well, first of all, I agree with you when you said it's going to be a good game. It's going to be a really good game. But I think this is going to be a game whose defense is the better defense that day. Mm-hmm. So, Pittsburgh has a really, really aggressive, tough, hard nose that comes to play football every week defense. I mean, they are a true cold weather defense. That team defense is great, outstanding. So like I said, it's going to be the battle of whose defense is the best defense that day. Roethlisberger is Roethlisberger. Brady is Brady. Two top-notch quarterbacks going at it, battling all day. Team with the best defense wins that game.
Yeah, and last week New England had a better defensive performance against Pittsburgh, but it's sort of apples and oranges. They were going up against the Texans, so I'm not really going to pick on that. I do agree with you. I think this can easily swing into Pittsburgh's favor. They do blitz the quarterback. They get after him. So their defense, I do think, has the edge in this game. It's really going to come down to some playoff magic. I think possibly even whoever has the ball last in this game wins. But you're going with Pittsburgh. I'm going to stick with New England. I think either one of us could be right. I'm glad we're both taking different sides of this. And we'll see how it pans out next week. Either way, however this all shakes out, I think the Super Bowl matchup is going to be fantastic. And I think the championship weekend is going to be fantastic. It's the best one we've had in a while. I think we have Super Bowls on both sides of the league next week. And then obviously we have a real Super Bowl. A lot of times the championship game ends up being better than the Super Bowl, but I think we're going to get 3 good games in a row here in the next few weeks. So I'm looking forward to it. That's this week's show. Is there anything you want to talk about before we get out of here? Any shout outs you want to give? Any points you wanted to make?
No. I just want to say, as always, shout out to Pillaging just for fun. The guys on the blog, you guys are fun to deal with every day and keep my life pretty chunky. Other than that, follow me on Twitter at KaneMT6. Peace out.
Yeah, and Kane's a good follow. You need to check him out on there if you're not already. I want to give a shout out to Dan for Vegas. We had a really brief interchange, and it was classy. Dan obviously lives in Las Vegas, and I checked in with him a little bit. And I don't want to open up this Easter egg, but I did check in with him a little bit on his thoughts about the team moving to Vegas. Obviously, dude's excited. If they land in Vegas, they're 5 minutes from his front door. And I told him, right now they're 60 minutes from my front door. And he saw my side of it too. So it was a really respectable interchange. And I want to let you guys know that even though this is sort of a black and white, 1 and a 0. It's a very binary sort of argument between fans that want him to stay and want him to go. There are people in the middle that do understand both sides of it. So shout out to you, Dan. I really respect your take. I get where you're coming from. I think that's completely valid. And thank you for respecting mine. I look forward to more conversations about you as this whole thing plays out. And again, just a special shout out to all you bloggers out there. Those of you that are lurking and those of you that have been posting for the last decade, pillagingjustforfun.com. If you're a Raider fan and you're listening now, but you're not on our site, I ask you, please go there, read an article, stay for the comments. It goes down in the comment section. Don't forget to scroll down, make yourself a Discuss profile, and join in the fun. We really get after it on there. Not to mention the fact we are a community. We do meet each other. We do have people that fly out, and it's just been great. It's been a great culture and a great community for the last 10 years plus. That's it for this week's show. I ask you again to tune in every Tuesday on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Stitcher Radio. Follow Kane on Twitter at MTKane. What was it again? At KaneMT6. Thank you very much. Follow us at Pillaging Just for Fun. That's at Pillage Just the number 4 Fun. And call and leave a message to be played on the show. You can reach us every week, 408-909-PJFF. Drop us a line there and you'll hear it played back. I'm Kenny Stapler. I'm joined every week by my co-host,
Raider Kane.
And we out here. Peace. Go Raiders.
Raiders.